being a lady in that environment is nothing but an EO complaint. Back in the day, like every minute, this is another could have been another complaint, right? Threw him into the wind and was like, "You're useless. So go over there, read this book until you become useful." I've shifted my Maxwell stuff, right? There's another guy who I trained up to do the leadership gold. I now do the servant leadership stuff, right? And just these 3 chapters. I only got 3 hours. I only have 3 hours, right?
Enough.
Yeah, I have like 56 chapters, so I have to I picked the 3 that I think is most relevant, and I'm grinding on these. Anyway, we set these things up in months in advance. It's always the 3rd Thursday of every month. Like none of that changes. There's a sign-up sheet. The class was full. 2 A1C showed up. But this is why. Because they signed up. They knew when they were signing up for, because from the email, it said, blah, 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 March, blah, blah, blah. And so they put it on their calendar from the email. The sign-up sheet was messed up. It was for February. Like the month wasn't flipped, whatever. But everybody signed up still, and so did they. But those are the only 2 that showed up because they didn't get the reminder. They didn't care about the reminder because they took ownership of their own deal. And they came because they saw the email, and that was that. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting first, right? Like they made it. Techs and masters and officers, no one else seemed to could figure it out, right? Nobody else made it. And then I got to talking. They're both from the same maintenance. They're in maintenance engines specifically. So it's like, oh, that's good, right? We need more ladies in maintenance field, and because they actually are better. They create better aircraft.
I did not find that to be true when I was in maintenance.
Well, so here's the trend, right? Here's the trend. But when we started talking about like, okay, so what is your experience in coming into this? Now we know old school, right? Especially old school maintenance and old school cops. Like Jesus. Being a lady in that environment is nothing but an EO complaint. Back in the day, like every minute, this is another could have been another complaint, right? Threw him into the wind and was like, "You're useless. So go over there, read this book until you become useful." And there was no engagement, or very little engagement. Direction, just no engagement. And that was the one thing that they were going to flip when they become the senior airmen staff sergeants, right? Is that when new people come in, they're going to, because they didn't get that one-on-one time. They didn't get any real like, hey, I don't join the Air Force to suck, right? I joined the Air Force to do good work, but I'm not giving any tools. I don't understand what this is because I'm new, right? This is all brand new stuff. Everything is new. And I could use some anyway, and they don't know how to ask. That's also a fault, right? How does a very new airman in general ask for help when they're from up to that point in time, they're being told what to do all the time, and there's a lot of knife hands involved, right, in their early career. The disciplining piece, right? But that transitioning from disciplining to coaching and mentorship, right, needs to make that transition at some point. And it just didn't make it for them, right, specifically. But that is indicative of leadership or their lack of leading versus managing, right? And there's all this opportunity for leaders to lead. I hate using the word leaders as a noun because I don't think it's accurate, right? For managers to lead, it would be a much more accurate term. But we don't take advantage of that. And what ends up happening, it ends up having all these effects, just like you're saying. That guy shouldn't even have made it that far. At some point early in that guy's career, he should have been either shown the door or shown a life-changing moment by his supervisor. right? Like we know what we're talking about, right? There's just a wake up call. Could have and should have happened earlier on to
Mhm.
go, I got to change my ways, or, right, I'm not going to make it. Like that happens to all of us at some point, right? Because we got to change these bad habits and we got to become better. And good supervisors will hold us accountable to that moment, to that personality fault, and be like, you need to on yourself. This must happen, or you're not going to be here anymore. Like that moment in time has to happen for people. And I don't think that a lot of people, because remember, in the military specifically, you're forced to be a supervisor.
Mhm.
It's not like you apply. It's like,
You get that whether you like it or not.
right. And so you get more people in the military who don't want to be a supervisor, who are forced into this position, and then they're not skilled. I mean, PMEs are, look, I get it. They got a space, there's a place for that, but that's not growing leaders. One time every 5 years is not, like a week, 4 or 5, every 5, 6 years is not growing leadership. That's, you're not gonna get any skills that way. You need decent mentorship all the time, consistent feedback if you want to be good. But that just means that your boss at some point had a boss that says you need self, right? And they started them on a different path. But if you get a whole track of people in the chain specifically who's never done that, then you get slip throughs, right? You get people who are just pushed up, pushed aside, pushed away, special projects. Um
Snacko manager.
Snacko manager. And it's very I don't know, I think it's very hard to understand. Like I want to blame the person for not stepping up. But it's also very hard for me to blame that person when they don't have awareness. Because they don't have awareness because they were never given the feedback. That's critical. If you don't get the feedback, you can't get the self-discovery. Without self-discovery, you have no awareness. So if the bosses are not committed enough to provide the actual feedback, then that process can't even start. You know what I mean? Can't even start. I don't know. I think, I led a team once. I was a very toxic leader, but we were very high performing. I had a very up or out mentality. Like I don't got time to train you. So either you come in out of the box with the skill sets we need, or I gotta find a different spot for you. I literally have 10 desks and you're sucking up oxygen in this very tiny room. I'm sorry. Right. And I fired lots of people, right? I fired lots of people, all of them for their own benefit, right? Because all of them needed off the team for one person for one reason or another. Um, it had nothing to do with doing the mission. The mission was killing it. Right, everybody on the team, 3 medals, 3 medals and a DUI is what you got on my team, right? And that was just like, and that was the psychological safety piece. I overdid it on the accountability piece
Hmm.
because there is a breach that can happen, and I learned that the hard way. But I think there's a lot of room for a lot of people to grow and be held accountable before you reach that extreme state where I was, right? Where I was creating that toxic environment and that lack of psychological safety because it was like you're fired, right? It was very, very much like that. There's lots of room to be held accountable before we get to that stage, and that type of craziness. So I don't know. I hope it is my hope, it is my mission, right, as a leadership strategist, to build more leaders who are
Mhm.
leading and who will go, you're a fuckstick. And we need to have a conversation because I actually don't care about you as I do about your impact on these thousands of people type of thing.
And that's what sucks about pushing along people who should not be a part of the military is
Yeah.
you the better you are theoretically, the more people you are going to influence.
Correct.
Like if you do really well, they're going to put you in command of a squadron when you're like major lieutenant colonel level, right? Because they're grooming you for the next
Mhm.
level. You have all these people's lives, careers, development as your responsibility.
Mhm.
And when you don't perform at that level, when you don't demonstrate that you are the kind of person who can be trusted with a large organization and see it succeed, you are going to get fewer and fewer people, which means you are going to have more direct access with them. And if you are not a good person, you are almost guaranteeing that those few people that poor leader comes in contact with are going to look for a way out of the military, because clearly this is what the military is, right? The military is an organization that puts a lieutenant colonel in what realistically should have been like a captain's position to underperform other O3s and make life hell for E3s, E4s.
Yeah.
You think you're going to keep them? You think you're going to keep those two or three? And I guess that's the trade-off with making it difficult to kick people out is like, okay, we're going to limit the possible damage that this person can do by giving them the least possible amount of responsibility, and just, okay, maybe we have to bite the bullet on three good workers getting out every, however often this guy transitions from position to position. Okay, wherever he goes, we're gonna count on losing three people. Okay, well, we've got a constant pipeline of people coming in, so it's all an attrition game, I guess.
Because I'd rather have 3 than 3,000. Because that's what would happen if they were in a bigger, if they were up higher up the food chain, right? You would have 3,000 or 1,000 or what are hundreds, depending on the level, be affected. And it does affect, right? Trickle down leadership. I mean, the mini me effect, that happens, and you can always tell an organization by the leader, by who's in charge, right? Because the people will act like that, which is unfortunate, totally unfortunate. And fortunate if you're a good leader, well, that's why my premise of kicking charisma to the door, right? Focusing on culture. So it's not person dependent. So you can have one of these guys roll in, and it's the culture that buttresses against that type of thing, versus the person. It's very hard to fight personalities, but culture is like a force, and you can really build good culture that squeezes out those type of people.
So I think that's the tier one organizations, the ones that can
Yes.
select, the ones that
Well,
can for their people, the ones that get to choose who gets to play and who doesn't.
yes, obviously, like 100%. In fact, I will tell you, my entire leadership model is based on tier one organizations. It's based on decomposing what works for the highest performers to break down, decompose the highest performers that we have, the elite. Like, what makes them so different, not as an individual, but as a team. Like, why is that? What's the team magic, in there? It's that culture piece, right? That team culture. But you can create team culture on organizations where you are forced to play pugs, right? Pickup games. It seems like all the time, right? You get on a new team, you're just a pickup gamer, right? For instance, if you're in charge, you set the game, you set the rules. When I came to this one other team, right? And it was a fairly large team, like 15 people. And there was a lot, like I spent a couple days just listening to the way they talk to each other. I could tell there was a lot of gossip happening on the team. He said, she said, this thing, da da da. Right. I was like, okay, well, that's going to stop. So get them in a room, everybody's in a room. I go, hey, here's all the things. And here's the final, here's a new rule, right? There will be zero gossip. If I hear you gossiping about somebody, if you're talking about somebody else, you're saying somebody else's name or you're referring to somebody else, and it has nothing to do with their task or your mission, as in they gave it to you or you're waiting on something from them, that's an LLC. We will quickly add paperwork to your file if that's a path you're going to choose to do. I'm telling you right now, I don't tolerate it. I have zero tolerance, so don't do it. Kicked all the airmen out. It's just NCOs. NCOs, check this out. If I witnessed it and you're nearby, you're getting an LLC too for not taking care of it. So I need you to hold them accountable, or you're going to get paperwork as well. I have zero tolerance. I have zero tolerance for bystander as well.
Mhm.
That one day, setting the new rules for the team flipped everything around in one day. Because it was very quickly, they're like, oh, that's not what, we're not doing that anymore. You know, that's not how we have fun. We have fun in other ways. But that's not how we have fun.
Yeah,
And
talking shit about each other behind their backs. Like,
yeah,
what's wrong there?
yeah, not doing it. And so, but the point is that you had to set the rule, right? It was a rule change, and because people followed the rule over time, it just became culture. And then when a new guy came in, going blah blah blah, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't do that here. So you need to knock that off. You need to leave that at the door. That's your old place, your old base, your old unit, your old team, right? We don't do that here. And they did that. I'm not even in that anymore. But that was the rule that was set, that built the culture. The culture then took a life force of its own. Huge fan of that. First, me coming in every day. What are you doing? You know how many LCs I wrote? None.
Like, yeah.
None. None. Because they're not stupid. Stop treating them as, right? And two, nobody wants to be an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's there to do bad things. They just do it because everybody else does it. And the bystander effect is so strong in our society that we'll let terrible things happen because we think somebody else is going to take care of it, or because somebody else didn't do any of it, that gives illicit permission for that terrible thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to step up. At a last story, I was on a phone call. I was helping another guardsman who's a master sergeant. I was helping him out with his clearance stuff because guards clearances, pain in the ass. I got to work with Miss P, and who's, look, gotta know your people. So,
Yes, you do.
there is a way, right? that you gotta do things sometimes. And so I'm on the phone and I'm in the way, and he overhears me conversating, and he starts blowing up. He's like, they should have had my stuff. They should have just get me in here. They blah 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 blah. Like, and I'm like, we're about to burn this deal. Because I'm like, he's never gonna have a clearance again if this keeps up. That's what I'm thinking in my brain as he's yelling. He's yelling. Small room. Right, we're in the NC3 area, right? Because that's what used to be my office, right? He's like right there, And I go, and I put the phone down. I was like, you stop it. I go, I got this. Wait. And I go, blah, 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 blah. Finished 2 seconds later, right? He goes, yep, she's going to do it. Okay, cool. Click. And then I fucking leaned into him. I was like, we don't fucking do that here. That was not called. Why'd I tear him up? And by the way, he never came back. I don't give a shit. But you know why? You know why I teared him up? It had nothing to do with him. had to do with all the other people that was around me that watched him do that. And if I would have let that go, I would have given permission for that type of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I nailed them down afterwards. Because I was like, nope, I can't have these guys. Nope. They got to understand that this is not acceptable. I don't even care. I don't even know the guy's name. I don't even care. Right? Because it was nothing. It actually had nothing to do with him at that moment. It had to do with everybody else understanding that that's not acceptable. And I don't think there's enough people in the world seeing the world like that. Like, understanding it's not about, it may not just be about that one person. Like, you not taking action to fix that one person or redirect that one person or have that one person's hard conversation. You are the one affecting everyone else now. Because you're allowing that to happen and you're saying, yes, please give more. You know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that's a good what you call it? I don't know, closing maybe to today. I know we talked about all the things, going from what I really think is very interesting is when you, me, and the people that we surround ourselves with get on their hill, their conviction, their standard, right? The thing that they're going to dive on, you know what I mean? Like their conviction, and they start talking about their conviction, that generates all the, from a business perspective, marketing you need. It attracts to you the people that need to do business with you or need to be a partner with. The talent, right, that you need to attract. You can pay them. That works too, right? Pay more money. But I also know that Hormuza guy, if he stopped paying them, they would quit. Facts. If he had strong conviction on the mission and people were attracted to you first based on the conviction and then found out they were paid, right? Like that would be a whole other dynamic type of thing because it attracts, because your convictions is what attracts people, it attracts your customer, attracts your talent, attracts everything, and it builds it, like you radiate your own culture type of thing. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for today.
We had a what time we got?
We have like 4 minutes max.
4 minutes max. I had an experience with oh shit, why can't I remember it? I was gonna tell you something. Lost it.
No.
Whatever. If it was important, I would have remembered. All right. I think that's a good place to call it.
Yeah.
I will hit you up on LinkedIn, sir.
All right. So are we going to do 5 or 4 my time? Was this a good time? Was this a better time?
1 a.m. or 1 p.m. my time.
Mm-hmm.
4 a.m. your time.
I don't know. No, 4. So we got what? So what time did we start your time today?
1 p.m.
So that's 5 for me.
Okay, daylight savings time shifted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need to do an hour earlier?
I don't know. You tell me how your battle rhythm is. If it's fuck, for me, it's just getting up early. For you, you have a whole life.
Well, I mean, this is Monday's my day off. This is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to do it an hour earlier, I can support that. No problem.
Nah, because I tried. I think I tried a couple times and I just failed that. So like I can't guarantee. Today I was up, but 1 out of 5 is not. It's not a great data point. Because getting up is harder than you just showing up at lunch, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we should do a 5. And I forget about 4. That's great. Then I do my business stuff ahead of time, and then go.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. All right.
Talk to you next week.
Yeah, talk to you next week. Bye.